The distress signal commander Elena Vasquez sat in the Deep Space Monitoring Station aboard the Earth defense ship Indomitable, her cybernetic implants glowing softly as they processed the endless stream of cosmic communications. The year 2387 had brought humanity to the stars, but Elena never expected her routine patrol would change the fate of the entire galaxy. She had been monitoring standard shipping frequencies when something impossible appeared on her screens. The signal was weak, fragmented, and definitely not human. Elena's enhanced hearing caught subtleties that would escape normal ears. Her implants, installed after a plasma accident 5 years earlier, could detect transmissions across 17 different alien frequency ranges. She had lost her natural hearing in that accident, but gained something far more valuable for humanity's expansion into space. Elena's fingers flew across her console as she isolated the signal. The transmission was clearly a distress call, but the language patterns were unlike anything in Earth's extensive alien database. The desperation in the alien voice was unmistakable, even through the static and interference. She immediately contacted the ship's linguist. Dr. James Chon arrived within minutes, his weathered face showing the intelligence that had made him Earth's foremost expert on alien communications. Chon had spent 30 years studying the languages of the 12 known alien species that humanity had encountered. His office was filled with translation matrices and cultural studies that had prevented 3 separate diplomatic incidents. Now, he stared at Elena's readings with growing excitement and concern. The transmission was coming from the outer rim, far beyond any established trade routes. Chon worked for 2 hours, running the signal through his most sophisticated translation programs. The breakthrough came when he recognized mathematical patterns similar to those used by the peaceful Zephyrian traders. These plant-like beings had been humanity's first alien contact 20 years earlier, establishing profitable trade relationships across several star systems. Chon's face went pale as he completed the translation. The message was from Captain Kelter of the Zephyrian merchant vessel Peaceful Current. His ship was hiding in the ruins of what had once been the thriving Altair system. 3 entire worlds had been consumed by something the Zephyrians called the Void Swarm, a force that devoured all organic matter and moved on to the next system like cosmic locusts. Admiral Robert Hayes received the report in his ready room aboard the flagship, Terra's Pride. Hayes was a veteran of the resource wars, a man whose scarred hands had seen battle across half the galaxy. His gray hair spoke of wisdom earned through countless difficult decisions, but his eyes still held the fire that had made him Earth's youngest admiral at 45. The wall behind his desk displayed commendations from every major human colony. Hayes studied the translated message with growing horror. According to Keltar, the Void Swarm had already consumed 7 star systems in the past month. Each attack followed the same pattern. Strange biomechanical ships would arrive without warning, strip planets of all life, then vanish into deep space. No survivors had ever escaped to describe the attackers in detail until now. The Admiral called an emergency meeting of his senior staff. Captain Sarah Mitchell of the assault cruiser Thunderbolt was the first to arrive. Mitchell had earned her reputation fighting pirates in the asteroid belt, where quick thinking and aggressive tactics were the difference between life and death. Her red hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, but her green eyes burned with the same intensity that had made her the youngest captain in the fleet. Medical Officer Dr. Lisa Park joined them moments later, her expertise in alien biology making her invaluable for any potential first contact situation. Park had saved countless lives during the plague outbreak on Kepler Station, working for 72 hours straight to develop a cure that worked on both human and alien physiology. Her reputation for compassion was matched only by her brilliant, analytical mind. Hayes laid out the situation with characteristic directness. The Zephyrian distress call came from coordinates 3 days away at maximum acceleration. Earth Command's standing orders were clear about avoiding contact with unknown hostile forces. But Hayes had always believed that humanity's strength came from helping those who could not help themselves. The room fell silent as his officers processed the implications. Mitchell was the first to speak, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were considering. If an enemy could consume entire star systems, then human colonies were clearly at risk. The outer rim settlements had minimal defenses and would be helpless against such an attack. Earth's military doctrine had always emphasized protecting human interests first, but this threat could easily spread to human space. Dr. Park raised concerns about the biological implications of the enemy's feeding behavior. Any force that could strip planets clean of organic matter possessed capabilities far beyond anything in Earth's experience. She recommended extreme caution and suggested consulting with Earth Command before taking any action. The delay could cost lives, but rushing into an unknown situation might accomplish nothing. Hayes made his decision with the quiet authority that had earned him the loyalty of every officer under his command. The Third Fleet would alter course for the Altair system immediately. They would attempt to rescue any Zephyrian survivors and gather intelligence about this new threat. If the Void Swarm was real, then Earth needed to know everything about their capabilities and intentions before they reached human space. The fleet changed course within the hour. 15 ships representing humanity's most advanced military technology accelerated toward the unknown. Hayes had commanded fleets in 3 major conflicts, but never had he felt the weight of responsibility that pressed down on him now. If his intelligence was correct, they were flying toward an enemy that could threaten every inhabited world in the galaxy. Elena continued monitoring communications as they traveled, her implants scanning for any additional transmissions from the disaster area. The silence was ominous. Where once there had been the normal chatter of interplanetary commerce, now there was only the empty whisper of cosmic background radiation. Entire civilizations had simply vanished without a trace. Dr. Chon worked frantically to establish communication protocols with any surviving Zephyrians. The plant-like aliens communicated through a combination of bioluminescent patterns and ultrasonic frequencies. Chon had spent years perfecting translation programs for their complex language, which used color variations to express emotional context that human speech could not convey. 3 days later, the fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Altair system. What they found exceeded their worst fears. Where the Zephyrian homeworld had once been a beautiful garden planet supporting millions of inhabitants, now only a dead rock remained. The atmosphere had been stripped away, along with every trace of organic matter. Even the soil itself was gone, leaving only sterile stone floating in space. Captain Mitchell's voice came over the communication system from the Thunderbolt, her normally steady tone shaken by what her sensors were detecting. The destruction was absolute and methodical. Orbital installations had been torn apart and consumed. The elegant bioships that Zephyrians used for space travel were nowhere to be found. The system looked like a cosmic graveyard where entire worlds had been murdered. Elena suddenly detected a weak signal from the asteroid belt surrounding what had once been the system's 4th planet. Her implants locked onto the transmission immediately. It was Captain Kelter, broadcasting from his damaged ship hidden among the floating rocks. His message was brief and desperate. He had 17 survivors aboard his vessel, the last members of his species as far as he knew. Admiral Hayes ordered a cautious approach to the asteroid field. The fleet moved slowly through the debris, weapons ready, but hoping to avoid detection by whatever had caused such destruction. Each officer understood that they might be flying into a trap, but the possibility of saving lives made the risk acceptable. Humanity had not reached the stars by abandoning those in need. They found the Zephyrian ship Peaceful Current hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid. its bioluminescent hull barely functioning on emergency power. Captain Kelter was a typical member of his species, standing 7 feet tall with bark-like skin and leaves that changed color to express emotion. Currently, those leaves showed the deep purple of profound grief and terror. The rescue operation took 4 hours, with human engineers working alongside Zephyrian survivors to transfer essential supplies and personnel. Kelter insisted on speaking directly with Admiral Hayes, despite his exhaustion and trauma. Through Dr. Chun's translation equipment, the alien captain described horrors that challenged human understanding. Asterisk. The Void Swarm had arrived without warning 7 days earlier. Their ships were unlike anything in Kelter's experience, combining biological and mechanical elements in ways that seemed impossible. The attackers showed no interest in communication or negotiation. They simply began consuming everything organic they encountered, growing larger and stronger with each world they devoured. Kelter's description of the enemy was fragmentary, but terrifying. The swarm ships could reshape themselves during battle, adapting to whatever weapons were used against them. They showed signs of collective intelligence, coordinating attacks with perfect precision across multiple star systems simultaneously. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to be learning and evolving with each encounter got as the rescue operation concluded. Elana's implants suddenly screamed with incoming signals. Massive objects were approaching the system at incredible speed, their energy signatures unlike anything in human databases. The Void Swarm had returned to finish what they started, and now they would find humanity standing in their way. Admiral Hayes ordered battle stations as 17 unknown contacts appeared on the fleet's sensors. Each enemy vessel was larger, and Earth's biggest battleships, their hulls seeming to shift and change as they moved through space. The first major battle between humanity and the Void Swarm was about to begin, and the outcome would determine the fate of every living world in the galaxy. The stage was set for humanity to prove why they were called Deathworlders. The Deathworlder. Response: the Void Swarm ships moved through space like living nightmares, their biomechanical hulls rippling with predatory intelligence. Admiral Hayes stood on the bridge of Terra's Pride and felt something he had not experienced in 20 years of combat. Genuine fear. But fear was something humans had learned to use as fuel rather than paralysis. His ancestors had survived ice, ages, plagues, and wars by turning terror into determination. Lieutenant Marcus Torres sat in the cockpit of his fighter, razor's edge, surrounded by the most advanced technology Earth could produce. Torres was barely 25, but his reflexes were legendary throughout the fleet. He had been raised in the orbital colonies, where split-second timing meant the difference between life and death. Now he watched 17 enemy vessels approach, each one larger than anything humans had ever built. The first Void Swarm ship opened what appeared to be a mouth filled with metallic teeth. Energy poured out in a beam that would have vaporized a human destroyer. But Captain Mitchell had anticipated the attack. The thunderbolt rolled aside with an agility that surprised both allies and enemies. Human ship design emphasized maneuverability. Oversize, a philosophy born from fighting in asteroid fields and nebulae. Chief Engineer Anna Kowalski worked frantically in the engine room of Terra's Pride, her hands flying over controls that managed the ship's experimental quantum drive. Kowalski had designed half the systems on the flagship, innovations born from humanity's need to do more with less. While other species built massive vessels, humans created ships that could punch above their weight class through superior engineering and tactical flexibility. The battle erupted across the entire system as human ships engaged enemies 3 times their size. What the Void Swarm had not expected was humanity's approach to warfare. Where other species fought predictably, humans used chaos as a weapon. Torres led his fighter squadron in a seemingly random attack pattern that confused the enemy's targeting systems while delivering precision strikes to vulnerable points. Admiral Hayes watched the tactical display and saw something that filled him with pride. His captains were not following standard engagement protocols. Instead, they were adapting to the enemy in real time, using their knowledge of human military history to implement tactics that had never been tested in space. Mitchell's Thunderbolt fought like a submarine, appearing from behind asteroids to strike and vanish. The destroyer Vigilance used ramming speed to breach an enemy hull before teleporting its crew to safety. Dr. Park monitored the battle from the medical bay while treating wounded Zephyrian survivors. Captain Kelter watched human tactics with amazement, his leaves shifting to colors that had no translation in human language. He had never seen anything like the controlled aggression that characterized human combat. Every move seemed calculated to maximize damage while minimizing risk, but executed with a ferocity that spoke of evolutionary survival instincts. The Void Swarm began adapting to human tactics, their biomechanical hulls shifting to compensate for the unpredictable attack patterns. But adaptation required time, and humans had learned to compress decision cycles into microseconds. Alina's enhanced hearing detected communication patterns between enemy ships, as she realized they were operating as a collective intelligence with a single point of control. Alina's discovery changed everything. She transmitted the enemy communication frequencies to Torres and his fighter squadron. If the swarm ships shared a collective mind, then disrupting their communications might create chaos in their ranks. Torres immediately began broadcasting random signals on those frequencies, using his fighter's communication array as a jamming device. The effect was immediate and dramatic. 3 Void Swarm ships suddenly stopped coordinating their attacks, firing randomly and even targeting each other. The collective intelligence that controlled them was vulnerable to disruption, a weakness that no previous enemy had discovered. Because no other species had Elena's unique cybernetic capabilities combined with human ingenuity for electronic warfare. Hayes saw the opportunity and seized it immediately. He ordered all ships to focus their communication arrays on jamming enemy frequencies while continuing their physical attacks. The combination of electronic warfare and kinetic assault created a cascade failure in the swarm's command structure. Ships that had moved with perfect coordination moments before now operated like confused predators, unsure of their targets. But the Void Swarm was learning faster than Hayes had expected. Within minutes, they began adapting to the jamming, developing new communication protocols that resisted human interference. The enemy ships regained their coordination and began a coordinated assault on the human fleet. 2 destroyers took critical damage, and the cruiser Defiant was forced to evacuate its crew to escape pods. Kowalski made a desperate decision that would have been impossible for any other species. She began overloading the quantum drives on damaged ships, turning them into improvised weapons of unprecedented destructive power. The explosion of the Defiant's drive core created a temporary tear in spacetime that consumed the nearest void. Swarm vessel completely. The alien ship simply ceased to exist, torn apart by forces beyond normal comprehension. The tide of battle shifted again as human desperation sparked innovation that bordered on insanity. Captain Mitchell launched her ship's entire supply of atmosphere as a chemical weapon, creating a corrosive cloud that ate through biomechanical armor. Another captain used his ship's gravity generators to create artificial black holes that pulled enemy vessels off course. Humanity was fighting with a creativity born from 10,000 years of surviving on a world that tried to kill everything that lived on it. Torres led his squadron in a suicide run against the largest Void Swarm vessel, the apparent command ship, that coordinated the enemy fleet. His fighters' weapons were insignificant against such a massive target, but Torres had grown up in the belt where miners routinely moved asteroids with controlled explosions. He flew directly into the enemy ship's mouth and detonated his fighter's fusion reactor inside its digestive system. The explosion tore the command ship apart from within, and the remaining Void Swarm vessels immediately lost coordination. Without their central intelligence, they became individual predators rather than a unified force. Human ships swarmed the confused enemies, using pack tactics that Earth's ancestors had perfected hunting megafauna on the African savanna 50,000 years earlier. As the last Void Swarm ship died in nuclear fire, Admiral Hayes received an unexpected transmission. Ships were approaching from multiple directions, but these were not enemies. Representatives from 6 different alien species had detected the battle and come to investigate. What they found amazed them beyond measure. The Quellian ambassador, a crystalline being who communicated through harmonic resonance, expressed concepts that Dr. Chun translated as profound respect mixed with disbelief. No species in galactic history had ever defeated a Void Swarm attack. Most civilizations simply evacuated threatened systems and hoped the predators would move on to easier prey. Humanity had not only fought back, but completely destroyed an entire swarm fleet. ****. Captain Kelter served as spokesman for the rescued Zephyrians, his leaves now displaying the bright gold that indicated joy and hope. Through Chun's translation equipment, he described how humans had accomplished something that every other species considered impossible. They had taken the Void Swarm's greatest strength, their collective intelligence, and turned it into a critical weakness through technological innovation and tactical flexibility. The Thrakari War Council, a species of insectoid warriors who had retreated before the swarm for decades, offered an immediate military alliance. Their hive queen communicated through pheromone patterns that Dr. Park had learned to interpret during previous diplomatic missions. The Thrakari had never offered alliance to any species they considered inferior in combat, but human tactical adaptability had earned their respect in a single battle. Even more remarkable was the response from the ethereal collective, energy beings who rarely interfered in physical conflicts. Their representative communicated directly through Elena's cybernetic implants, praising humanity's ability to fight not just with weapons, but with intelligence and creativity. The ethereals offered to share defensive technologies that could protect entire star systems from future swarm attacks. Hayes found himself at the center of an impromptu diplomatic conference as alien representatives competed to offer alliances, trade agreements, and military cooperation. The admiral who had begun the day, commanding 15 human ships, now spoke for what was rapidly becoming the galaxy's first integrated defense coalition. Species that had never cooperated before were united by their admiration for human military capabilities. Dr. Park worked with Zephyrian biologists to understand the Void Swarm's reproductive cycle, hoping to prevent future attacks. Her medical expertise combined with alien knowledge revealed that the swarm reproduced by consuming organic matter from conquered worlds. By denying them food sources and disrupting their communication networks, it might be possible to force them into retreat or even extinction. Kowalski found herself surrounded by alien engineers eager to learn human techniques for improvised weapon systems and emergency repairs. Her ability to turn damaged ships into weapons had impressed species who had devoted millennia to perfecting defensive technologies. The human concept of making do with what you have was revolutionary to civilizations that depended on specialized equipment and predetermined tactics. The battle's aftermath revealed something that amazed even the humans themselves. They had not simply won a military victory, they had demonstrated capabilities that other species considered mythical. The aliens spoke of Deathworlder attributes, characteristics that only evolved on planets so hostile that survival required constant adaptation and creative problem-solving. Alana discovered that her cybernetic implants, originally designed to compensate for injury, had given her capabilities that no other species possessed. Her ability to interface with multiple communication systems simultaneously made her the galaxy's first truly universal translator. Other species began requesting human advisors for diplomatic missions, where complex multilingual negotiations were required. Torres survived his apparent suicide run when his fighter's emergency systems teleported him clear of the explosion at the last possible moment. The alien observers were astounded that a pilot would sacrifice himself for strategic advantage, then amazed that human technology could save him from certain death. The concept of calculated self-sacrifice, followed by technological resurrection, was beyond their experience. Admiral Hayes accepted the role of coalition commander with characteristic humility, but his officers could see the pride in his eyes. Humanity had proven themselves worthy partners to advanced alien civilizations through their performance in the most desperate battle any of them could imagine. The Third Fleet had departed Earth as explorers and returned as the founding members of Galactic Civilization's greatest alliance. The rescued Zephyrians established a memorial beacon in the ruins of the Altair system, broadcasting the story of humanity's first great victory to every corner of the galaxy. Captain Kelter personally recorded a message describing how 17 human ships had accomplished what entire alien fleets had failed to do. The broadcast ended with a warning to any future threats. Earth had awakened, and the Deathworlders would not tolerate aggression against innocent civilizations. As the combined fleet prepared to return to human space, Elena detected new signals from deep space. More alien species were responding to the memorial broadcast, offering friendship and alliance to the humans who had defeated the impossible enemy. The galaxy was changing, and humanity found itself at the center of a transformation that would reshape interstellar civilization forever. The Third Fleet's return to Earth marked the beginning of humanity's golden age. Among the stars, when Deathworld determination met galactic opportunity to create something greater than either could achieve. Alone, asterisk.